If you have ever wondered what goes into creating pet portraits, this video is for you. Hi, my name is Chelsea. I am a full-time artist and children's book author illustrator. And I actually quit my job almost 5 months ago, and one of my main streams of income is pet portraits. I have 3 to get done this week, and I thought it would be fun to bring you along for the ride and show you my full process. So let's go ahead and dive in. So first, where do my commissions come from? I would say there are 2 main avenues right now. The first is by word of mouth. So friends of friends of family of friends, you get it. And the second is through art shows. So anytime I have a booth or a table set up, I always get asked if I offer commissions. And I typically have 3 signs set up when I'm at art shows. I always have a sign up with my pricing on it, and that also has a QR code that takes them straight to my website. And I also have a sign here that says that if they book today, they get 10% off. And all that's required is a 50% deposit, and they can send me all the reference photos and fill out the information later. And I also have this sign letting people know that I offer gift certificates. So if they want to book a portrait for somebody, but they don't necessarily want to fill out all the information and they want the person to dictate what they want for their portrait, this is a great option to offer. And most importantly, on the back of my business card, I have a QR code that takes them straight to my website so they can grab and go, and they can have it right in their pocket for when they're ready to book in the future. Now, regardless of where someone makes initial contact with me with interest on a pet portrait, I direct everybody to my website where it has all the details, my full process, and my inquiry form right there. Most important for your website is you want to make it as easy as possible for yourself and your customers, and you want to try and save yourself as much admin time in going back and forth answering questions. I learned that very early on. But on that note, I will say that there are 2 kinds of customers. Some people like me will read all the details and full process, and some may just jump straight to the pricing and then the inquiry form. And they'll probably come to you with a lot more questions, so expect both types of customers. So here on my website, I have a step-by-step accordion style how it works section. It explains each step. And I'll go over the inquiry form more in a moment. And on the side of that, I have a reference photo guide. And that is very needed in a lot of cases. It just gives the customer tips and tricks on how to get good reference photos of their pets. As for my pricing, I use the time and materials method. So how many hours I believe it will take me to complete the portrait, and I base that on my past portraits, and I multiply that by how much I want to pay myself hourly, plus the cost of materials. I also include a note on sales tax so the buyers don't have any surprises. For shipping, I have found it easiest to offer flat rate shipping across the board for all US orders. And then I also have a buy gift certificate option right here on my website as well. My last section on my page goes over framing. Now, I offer standard black wood frames for all orders, but if the client prefers to frame the piece themselves, I list all the handling notes here. Now, as far as the inquiry form, I make sure it is as easy as possible for the customers to fill out. So I have the form on the footer across all pages of my website, and it of course is at the top in the how-to section as well as right here. So once someone clicks on the link, it opens up the inquiry form. Now, I use Monday.com. When I worked in my corporate role, Monday.com was my life. You can set up all different workflows and automations. Now, I do pay additionally for this. And whatever management system you're using for your website, you can just use their included contact form. For example, if you're using WordPress, that would be contact form 7. But I wanted to make everything as easy as possible for myself with automation, so that's why I am using Monday.com. On my form, I list the current wait times, and the customer will start filling out their personal information, and then making their selections and entering details about their request. And this is where I have them attach their reference photos. I ask for 3 to 4, but I usually end up going back to ask for more. And before they can submit the form, they need to click that they agree to my terms and conditions. This gives me an added layer of protection, which you want when you run any business. Once somebody submits the form, it triggers an email to be sent to me, and the request is added straight to my Monday.com tracking board. Now, I'm not going to do a full walkthrough of Monday.com because it is very complex and that would be needed for a lot of other videos, but let me know in the comments if you are interested. But just to show you how my tracking is set up, I have 3 groups: works in progress, waitlisted, and completed. And essentially, each of the questions on the form is a column on the board. So all of the information they enter comes over to me, and then there are additional columns that I add information to. And then I have a bunch of automations set up based on my workflows and the statuses that I have selected here. So when I select different statuses, it triggers emails to be sent to both myself and the customer. It is truly the most incredible platform. In terms of working with reference photos, these are the ones I have to work with for my portraits this week. This first dog has really good reference photos, so I'm not going to need to do too much tweaking to get it to how I want it to look on my board. For the second dog, I'm actually doing 2 portraits. One is the puppy version and one is the adult version. And these actually aren't the best reference photos, but these are the pictures they really, really wanted to be converted to the pet portrait. But I'm experienced enough now where these will work fine for what I need to prep, so I'm okay with these. But again, you can always go back and ask for more reference photos later. Now, even though I have the reference photos, I always do some prep work beforehand. I want to get a digital image of the reference photo close to what it's going to look like on my board. Not every artist does this, but for me, because my medium is very unforgiving, I want to see what it's going to look like and if there's any tweaking that I want to do beforehand. So for me, I'm not going to go through this whole process, but I'll usually come in here and I'll put a black background on here, just since mine is all in black and white. I'll then add, a black and white layer just to see how it might look and if there's any, adjustments that I want to do before I put the sketch on my board. And then once I get the image how I want it to look on the board, I come over to a new file, and here is where I can go ahead and do the digital sketch. I'm not going to do that whole thing here, but this is how I get my line art and my sketch, and then I will transfer it to my scratch board, which you'll see in the creation process. This is my final line art here of all 3 reference photos. While we walk through some of the creation process, I wanted to share some things I've learned over the years. First, if you are just starting out as an artist, my recommendation is to not go too fast and take on too many portraits in the beginning. This was one of the things I would have done differently early in my art career. Looking back, I would have focused on developing my style and my own art first. It would have prevented a lot of burnout for me back then. Yes, it is exciting when you realize you can make money from your art, but just take it slow if you can. Second, in terms of creating the art itself, I have learned with all mediums I have dabbled in that it is all in the layers. You don't want to go in too heavy too fast. You want to build up light layers one at a time. And if a piece is frustrating you, it just needs more work. Step away and come back later. I always think of Happy Gilmore when Chubbs was saying, "It's all in the hips." Well, for art, it's all in the layers. I have been repeating that to myself all these years. Third, get to know business. Customer service, technology, insurance, taxes, bookkeeping. Although you might not need to know all these right off the bat, you will need to learn these over time. When you start getting paid for your art, you are in business and you need to run it as such. As an artist, you will need to learn to wear many hats. Unfortunately, it's not just about being a creator unless you have enough money to hire out some of these other things. For customer service, work on your people skills and dealing with different personalities. A great way to do this, if not on a job, is getting out to art shows, and you will meet all kinds of people and all personalities. For technology, learn web design. Even at the most basic level, learn how to manage your own website. If you have no experience, platforms like Wix and Squarespace are easy to get up and running. And also learn how to take payments in multiple ways. I use Square to take payments via debit or credit card in person, and I also use it to send invoices. Now, business insurance might not come until much later in your art career. I didn't get full business insurance until I went full time this year, but you will still need coverage for art shows. And if there was any other insurance advice, I would say if you can get renters or homeowners insurance to protect your supplies in case anything were to happen, I highly recommend it. For taxes and bookkeeping, this is one of the things I dread the most. Although I have an advanced knowledge of Excel, I dread having to keep track of everything. But after every art show, I log my payments, and you need to keep all of your receipts for expenses for tax write offs. I need to log these more frequently than I do. I am definitely guilty of compiling all expenses right before taxes are due, but you want to get used to that. Now back to the creation. Once I feel the portraits are done, I send a photo to the client, and this is the most exciting part for me. I mean, you always hope that there aren't going to be any additional changes, but always be prepared for that. The reactions are usually the best part about the job. And once everything is approved, for smaller pieces, I scan them in, and for larger pieces, I take professional pictures with my DSLR camera and edit the final photo to have on file and keep for my marketing purposes. Varnishing is such an important step to any artwork. For scratchboard, it seals the work, protecting it from minor nicks and scratches. It also adds another layer of UV protection. Scratchboard is already an archival medium, but a lot of other mediums aren't, so it is critical to seal it with an archival varnish. I typically do anywhere from 3 to 5 layers, and I let it dry for 3 days before framing. And I have a whole separate video on my channel if you're interested in learning how to varnish scratchboard. As mentioned earlier, I offer standard black wood frames for all of my pieces. I buy these wholesale in bulk online, which is so convenient. I, of course, am more than happy to help customers who want a different style and custom framing, but I do prefer to frame it myself if possible. Otherwise, I do let the client know that I can send it to them in parchment paper or glassine paper to protect it before they frame it themselves. I use offset clips. I always keep a range of sizes for custom framing on hand. I place them directly in the center. I then use D-rings for wire hanging, and I secure those about 1/3 of the way down. And I wrap the wire multiple times, and I always add artist tape around the end of the wire so it doesn't hurt anyone. For my certificates of authenticity, I list a statement at the top that basically says that this certificate assures that the artwork identified is an original piece by me. I then list the title of the artwork, the series, the medium, the year created, size. I then print my name, and of course I sign it. And I include a final image of the piece as well. And then I add my gold seal, and I have a custom embosser that certifies that it is from me. And then I always write a handwritten thank you note showing my appreciation for their business. And then I package everything into a craft paper bag. I put my certificate of authenticity, an artist statement, and what scratchboard is, as well as my business card and the handwritten thank you note. I package pieces for pickup and shipping differently. Starting with this piece that is being shipped to New Jersey, I start by placing a backing board on top to ensure that the packaging material does not sit on the surface. I then wrap it in nice tissue paper that goes along with my style and branding. I then use twine and add this little thank you note, as well as a flyer that says important, please read this before taking the piece out of the packaging, that basically has some handling and care instructions. And then, of course, comes the bubble wrap, making sure that it is nice and protected. I then add my certificate of authenticity bag to the bottom. I place the artwork on top of that. And I use these Craft Easy fold mailers. These I got on Amazon. I keep some in stock for each of my main sizes for 5x7s, 8x10s, and 11x14s. I'll place the links below in the description. And I fold it all up and then tape it up, and then I head over to my scale and weigh the package and take the measurements. I then head over to Pirate Ship to buy my shipping label. I highly recommend buying a label printer for home. It'll save you so much time where you can prep your whole package and just drop it off without having to wait in line at the post office. And one more note on the insurance. I always get the added coverage to cover the cost of the whole piece. So for this 8x10, it was an additional $4, but if something were to happen, the post office would reimburse us fully for the cost of the artwork. And at this point, I email the client with the tracking number and expected delivery date. I then add some stamps for the final touches on the package, and it is ready to go to the post office. Oh, but don't forget the Handle with Care stickers as well. For pieces that are going to be picked up or delivered locally, my style kind of varies with each one, and it kind of depends on how large the piece is. But if they fit in my gift boxes, I again use some kind of tissue or wrapping paper that goes with my brand. On this one, I added the thank you note on top with some twine and a sticker, and of course, I added the flyer that explains how to handle and care for the artwork. Now, the other two portraits are actually getting custom framing, so they are not ready yet, but I would package them in a bubble or foam sleeve with the backing board on top. I would put their certificate bag on the bottom and the piece on top, and that would be it. So after 3 back-to-back portraits, we are done. I'm going to close them out on my Monday tracking board and wait for the next ones to come in. If you are interested in commissioning a portrait, I'll link my website below. And if you're an artist, I hope this video was helpful, and please let me know in the comments if you want a deeper dive into any part of my process.